I will be reconstructing my 7.95 one-handed average, which tied my current European record. So starting with the first solve. I did red, yellow first block. This solve was 9.6. So I start with RU2R, D2, M prime B to build the first block. There's nothing really wrong with that. Where the solve sort of goes very wrong is in second block. So what I do here is I do RU, R2, and then I'll continue on to do the blue-yellow pair. But really, if you look here, if I was to do an M prime U, then this pair just comes in a lot, and it saves a lot of moves. But what I do in the solve is R wide U R2, and then R prime, U prime, R M prime. For some reason I don't just do an R wide, and then U2, R U R prime to insert the pair, and then for the next pair I just do U prime R prime U R wide U prime M, R wide prime U prime R, which is fairly standard solution. And then here I get the alright CMLL case, and I can see that these two edges are going to flip, so I'm going to end up with a good arrow for E or R. So for this I just solve E or R like this. There's not really any other ways to do it. And then I just do 4C. So the second solve was 8 seconds. So for the first block I do orange-white, which is not really a very good choice. The solution I ended up doing is rather long. I mean, so green-yellow, for example, has a much better block. If I was to do like F, R, U prime, B, R2, D2 from this angle, that would be a lot shorter than what I do. But so what I do in the solve is I start by making the orange, white, blue square, and I insert so like this, but I put a U move here, so this edge ends up in a slightly nicer position. And then I just solve this pair with like this. And then for second block I do, like I start R wide prime U to start solving this edge, and then I add a U prime like this one, inserting it so that this corner doesn't end up with white on top. And then here I do this pair first. The other pair would have been better, but I go and do this pair anyway. And then I just solve this pair. And then I do CMLL. My CMLL doesn't misorient any edges, so I'll still have two misoriented on top. And also this will still be here when I finish CMLL. So I can go straight into ELR like this. And then here I make a bit of a mistake. I AUF the wrong way. I do this rather than this. So it just means at the end I'll have a U2. So the third solve was an 8.09, and I do the red-yellow first block, so I build off this pair. So I start by inserting the DL edge by doing this, and then I solve this pair just like this, and then my DR edge is here, so I bring it up to the top and it pairs up with this corner. And so my first pair is going to be the orange blue pair. So what I do is I do U, and then here I do R wide to R wide, because it's a bit of a mistake because I could have just done R wide prime, and then I just insert the edge in here like this, and then for the final pair, if I do this, they'll just pair up with an M2, then I can insert it. And then the CMLR case I get here is just pure soon, so here I know that these two are going to move and be opposite, so I know exactly what EOLR case I'm going to have. So I just do the ALG, and then here I do the EOLR like this. It's a bit of a long case, and then I just do 4C like this. So the third solve was 7.11. So I do the orange-white block. So here if I do an R-wide2 and then D-move, I can make this square at the back. And then this pair will just be one move away from being paired up. So just like this. Then I can insert it. And then my DR edge is here, and I have a solved pair here which I can use. So I do R prime, U prime, and then R, U, R, and then I can just insert it. And then I just do the final pair. And then here I get a pure anti-soon. So I can just do it like this. And then for this EOLR case, I do this solution. And then I get quite a nice 4C case. So this last solve was 7.76. I do the red-white first block. There's a couple of ways of doing this. So you start like this. And then, so in the solve, I do an S move here and then insert the corner like this. There's also the option of doing an F wide like this. But the continuation from that isn't quite so good. So go like this, and then U2, which matches the DR edge up with the center and also gives me this free pair, which is the first pair I'll do. So what I do here is I do R, U prime, and then here I start doing an R wide, which breaks up the pair, so I have to undo it, and then do an R, and then I insert the pair, and then I do this other pair in the back, like this. And then for CMLR, my ALG for this case flips these two edges. So I'll get a 1-1 case. And then I solve EOLR like this. And then I just do 4C.